Martina Schulz, a gifted violinist, practices in her room, unaware that she has an observer, a boy watching her from the house opposite. As she plays, she receives a call from an unknown man. Their conversation suggests familiarity, perhaps even affection, hinting at an unseen relationship brewing in the background. Meanwhile, across town, Bruno Garay navigates the challenges of adolescence. His mother, Ima Garay, is a fierce journalist who hosts a news program called Caught on Lado Bariloche, dedicated to exposing criminals and seeking justice for victims. The mother and son share an uneasy relationship, weighed down by Ima's relentless pursuit of the truth. On this particular day, Ima receives a batch of letters, one addressed to her and another to Bruno. Without hesitation, she rips them apart, their contents remaining a mystery. Ima's latest investigation centers on a dangerous predator who lurks behind the online persona at Final Game 05, preying on young girls through the video game City of Persons. Posing as a teenage boy, the predator manipulates his victims into trust, leading them down a dark path. Ima, using a fake identity, has engaged with the suspect and even drawn his so-called affection. But despite her attempts to involve the police, they insist on solid proof before taking action, leaving her frustrated yet more determined than ever. At school, a seemingly ordinary day unfolds. Martina's mysterious neighbor sits alone in the gym, lost in his sketches, while the popular boys chatter about an upcoming party. Bruno, always an outsider, finds a rare moment to insert himself into the conversation. Though initially dismissive of him, the group warms up when he suggests a bold plan to make the night unforgettable. In a place where reputation matters, Bruno has found his ticket to temporary acceptance. Desperate for a breakthrough in her case, Ima visits Camila Costa, one of the suspected predator's victims. But instead of finding answers, she faces a wall of discomfort. Camila's parents seem tense, their unease amplified by the presence of Camila's godfather, Leo. In a chilling display of quiet authority, Leo forces Ima to leave, shutting down any chance of a conversation. Unwilling to give up, Ima devises a dangerous plan. She messages at Final Game 05 and arranges a meeting at a local skate park. As she waits, her anxiety builds, only to be met with disappointment when the predator fails to show. But then, something unexpected happens, a man arrives carrying a teddy bear. Ima's instincts scream at her to act, and she follows him. However, he quickly catches on, making a swift escape before she can uncover his identity. The police arrive, only to reprimand Ima for interfering with their investigation, leaving her with nothing but more questions. Elsewhere, Leo is seen helping his friend Juliana with her backyard, a moment of mundane normalcy in contrast to the growing tension elsewhere. Juliana's son, Armando, is withdrawn, resistant to therapy, and locked in his own world of sketches and silent observations. When the topic of Ima's show, Caught, comes up, Leo listens with interest, a flicker of something unreadable in his expression. Later that evening, Leo finds himself watching episodes of Caught, his gaze darkening as he takes in Ima's work. Then, in an unexpected turn, he calls her, offering an apology and extending an olive branch, his help. Ima, though wary, sees an opportunity and agrees to meet him. The meeting takes place at Fronteras Foundation, an organization run by Leo that provides shelter and guidance for troubled youth. Ima is impressed by his work, though she remains cautious. As she questions the gamer kids at the foundation, an unsettling truth emerges: several of them had interacted with a predator. One girl, in particular, recalls her experience in haunting detail, describing a manipulative and intoxicating online relationship. Ima listens in horror as the girl's story mirrors her own conversations with at Final Game 05. A pattern begins to form, one that links the predator to more victims than she had initially realized. More disturbingly, the voice of the predator bears a striking resemblance to the voice of Martina's secret admirer. Amid the intensity of the moment, Ima and Leo share a moment of unexpected vulnerability. They discuss their lives, their relentless dedication to their work, and the ways it has consumed them. One thing leads to another, and soon, passion takes over. They share an intimate night together, but the glow fades quickly. As Ima lies beside him, the weight of her choices presses down on her. Regret takes root, and she leaves with a hurried excuse, running into Leo's friend outside, who watches her departure with a knowing look. Meanwhile, Martina finally gets her big moment. She passes her audition and is accepted into the Camerata Orchestra. Excitement surges through her as she waits for her admirer's call. When he finally reaches out, he apologizes for missing her audition but promises they will meet soon. There is just one condition. That night, Bruno and his friend take a risk, sneaking into his father's workshop to steal a hammer. Their objective? Breaking into a lake house to throw the ultimate party. Their daring plan works, and soon, Bruno is no longer an outsider but the life of the party. Even Gail, one of the most popular boys, seems impressed. When Martina arrives, Gail's attention is immediately drawn to her, his gaze lingering in a way that suggests more than casual interest. Back in town, Leo appears distracted at Juliana's pub. A sudden call pulls him away, and Juliana watches curiously as he rushes out. The next thing he knows, he is being ambushed by Emma and her camera crew at an unfamiliar location. Accusations fly, and Leo finds himself at the center of a nightmare. Emma is convinced he is the predator. He protests, claiming he was called there by a girl who needed help, but suspicion lingers. When she directly accuses him of assaulting multiple girls, including his goddaughter, Leo's face contorts with shock before he makes a desperate escape. At the lake house, the night takes a dark turn. Martina, intoxicated, finds herself in an uncomfortable situation as Gail makes a move on her. She pushes him away, while Armando and another girl watch from the sidelines. Upset, Martina reaches for her phone and calls her admirer. But this time, he doesn't answer. Leo's night only worsens. As he returns home, flashing police lights greet him. The authorities have searched his place and discovered damning evidence, a teddy bear and photographs of underage girls. The case against him is quickly building, and before he can make sense of it all, an arrest warrant is issued. Meanwhile, Emma rewatches her ambush footage, doubt flickering across her face. But before she can hesitate, she tweets the video, ensuring that Leo's name is dragged through the mud. As the episode reaches its climax, morning breaks with grim realizations. Bruno wakes up at the now deserted lake house, only to find the stolen boat missing. And across town, Mrs. Schultz peers into her daughter's empty room, slowly realizing that Martina never came home. Episode 2 of God begins with a flashback to 2 years ago, offering insight into Emma Garai's past. At the time, she had hoped to scale back her workload to spend more time with her husband, Juan. However, fate had other plans. As Juan was leaving, a drunk driver ran him down, killing him instantly. This tragedy would later shape Emma's relentless pursuit of justice, fueling her investigative work on Court. In the present, Leo has disappeared. Meanwhile, Emma's personal life spirals into chaos after word of her intimate encounter with Leo spreads across the internet. What started as a moment of weakness is now a public scandal, with netizens ridiculing and shaming her. Colleagues, particularly Vicky and her boss, insist that she step away from the case, fearing her judgment has been compromised. However, Emma refuses to back down, convinced now more than ever that Leo deliberately seduced her to manipulate her and throw her off his trail. Elsewhere, Leo seeks refuge at the Costa's house, desperate to clear his name. But his presence terrifies Camila, and her mother, Isabel, forcibly chases him away, unwilling to hear his side of the story. The tension surrounding his alleged crimes only intensifies. Meanwhile, the Schultz family is in turmoil. Martina has not returned home, and panic sets in. Her parents question her younger sister, Sofia, who casually suggests that Martina might be with Gail. Clutching onto this lead, they immediately head to Gail's house, only to find his father there instead. He informs them that neither Gail nor Martina ever arrived that night, deepening the mystery of Martina's disappearance. Back at Frontera's foundation, the police arrive with a search warrant, turning the place upside down. Estella, a counselor, and Leo's close friend Marcos are enraged by the invasion. When Emma shows up, Marcos lashes out at her, holding her responsible for ruining the life of an innocent man. However, not everyone at the foundation supports Leo. Another counselor, Ramiro, believes in the allegations and agrees to be interviewed by Emma. His decision enrages Estela, who promptly expels Emma from the premises. Determined to gather more evidence, Vicky and Emma attempt to interview Juliana, Leo's ex-wife, but she refuses to cooperate. Through their investigation, they learn that Juliana and Leo were married for 10 years following the disappearance of Armando's father. However, their marriage was unconventional, they never lived together. This revelation only strengthens Emma's suspicions about Leo's character. Meanwhile, Bruno is in distress over the missing boat, but his friend Fer remains optimistic, convinced they will find it. To aid their search, they begin reviewing all the videos recorded at the party, hoping for a clue about what happened that night. Back at the Costa's residence, Isabel, shaken by Leo's sudden visit, finally agrees to share Camilla's story in an interview with Emma. She recounts how Camilla once became close to an anonymous online friend. The friendship took a dark turn when they arranged to meet in person. That day, the predator concealed his face and assaulted Camilla, leaving her traumatized. Adding to the tragedy, Leo was one of the first to comfort the family in the aftermath, complicating Emma's perception of him. Just as Emma processes this new information, another ghost from her past resurfaces. Ariana, the woman responsible for Juan's death, appears, pleading for Emma's forgiveness. It turns out she has been sending letters to the Garay household as part of her Alcoholics Anonymous recovery process. However, Emma is unmoved. She lashes out at Ariana, accusing her of never truly changing, and in a moment of unfiltered rage, she tells Ariana to end her own life. As the Schultz family officially reports Martina missing, the police ramp up their search efforts. During this time, a patrol officer spots Leo sneaking into his house and alerts Facu, Camilla's father. Leo, realizing he has little time, hurriedly packs his belongings, preparing to flee. However, before he can make his escape, Facu's thuggish associates ambush him. He barely manages to escape with his life, but his troubles don't end there. The gang sets his house ablaze, leaving him with nowhere to turn. Desperate and out of options, Leo turns to Marcos, interrupting him during a rare moment of peace with his family. Leo asks for help in fleeing, but Marcos urges him to turn himself in, believing a lawyer can prove his innocence. Marcos' wife, however, is frustrated with her husband's unwavering loyalty to Leo, lamenting how he is always cleaning up Leo's messes. That night, when Marcos checks in on Leo, he finds that he has vanished once again. Elsewhere, Gale sneaks off to an abandoned barn, where he hides something before returning home. Upon his arrival, he is immediately questioned by the police about Martina's whereabouts. Under pressure, he insists that he left the party with a friend. However, when the commissioner implies that he and Martina were dating until she cheated on him, Gale bristles, visibly unsettled. Meanwhile, Armando is deeply affected by the allegations against Leo, his former stepfather. Overwhelmed, he locks himself inside the school restroom, refusing to come out. Juliana, worried sick, stays by his side until he finally emerges and embraces her, seeking comfort in his mother's presence. Back at the river, the police question a local caretaker about the missing boat. Bruno, growing increasingly anxious, watches as his secret threatens to unravel. Then, Fer finally sends him a video from the party, one that changes everything. In the footage, Martina is seen heading toward the stolen boat. The revelation shakes Bruno to his core. Emma, still chasing the truth, confronts Marcos, the last known person to see Leo. She learns that Marcos is not only financially well off but also played a significant role in funding Fronteras Foundation. As she presses him for answers, Marcos firmly defends Leo, claiming their bond is like that of brothers. However, Emma remains skeptical, unable to reconcile Leo's innocence with the mounting evidence against him. Just then, she receives an unexpected call from Leo himself. He agrees to turn himself in but insists she must first hear his side of the story. Emma, wary but intrigued, agrees to meet him. At their clandestine meeting, Leo makes a shocking revelation. A girl named Martina Schultz had reached out to him for help, sending him the exact location where Emma later found him. He insists he has never played City of Persons nor chatted with any girl online. The realization dawns upon him, both he and Emma were set up by the real predator. Before they can act on this discovery, Facu arrives, armed and furious. Leo attempts to defuse the situation, but the mention of Camilla sends Facu into a blind rage. Without hesitation, he pulls the trigger, shooting Leo in the neck. A horrified Emma watches as Leo collapses, blood pooling beneath him. Overcome with shock, she flees the scene, leaving Leo's fate uncertain. As dawn breaks, Bruno's worst fears come true. The missing boat is discovered, drifting in the middle of the river. Inside, a single clue remains, Martina's yellow scarf. Episode 3 of Caught begins with a flashback to Martina practicing her violin in her backyard. Leo is working on Juliana's backyard, and they get to talking. Martina asks about Hernan though, and Leo gives her his gloves since it is cold. At present, the whole town is rocked by Leo's murder. Facu is arrested while Hernan is deeply upset. Marcos is stunned to learn that his friend is dead. Commissioner Herrera takes Emma's statement and is surprised by Martina's mention. He reveals that the boat has been found with only Martina's scarf. A search is ongoing for her body, and Bruno is scared. The cop's theory is that Martina got drunk and fell into the lake. Emma spots Bruno and comforts him, believing they were friends. During Facu's interrogation, Herrera reveals that he doesn't judge him. He admits he would have done the same but advises Facu to get a good lawyer for his daughter's sake. Bruno tags along as Emma searches the lake house for clues. He appears eager to help, but in reality, he is trying to cover up the fact that he stole the boat responsible for Martina's disappearance. He convinces his friends to share a video from the night of the party, which shows Martina leaving on the boat with someone. A girl from the party watches as the friends hand over the video to Emma. At the same time, Diego, Emma's boss, wants her to air the Leo episode, believing it will be a hit and seal the deal with their new sponsor. However, Emma refuses, stating that she needs more evidence. Vicky is surprised by her change in attitude, and Emma reveals that she now believes Leo. His phone records also show that he never spoke to Martina, only Emma. Meanwhile, the cops trace Martina's phone and find that it was last activated near her home. Bruno continues to act shifty, but Emma thinks he just wants to protect Gail. She questions Gail, who is cooperative. Gail shares that things were casual between him and Martina. He believes she started seeing an older guy, which is why she lost interest in everything else. At school, the students work on putting up missing posters, including the girl from the party and Hernan. Bruno wants to confess about stealing the boat, but Fur is scared of the repercussions. He decides to leave her out of it and confess to Emma on his dad's death anniversary. Meanwhile, Emma questions the Schultz, who are upset that they don't know Martina as well as they thought they did. She wonders if Leo was the older guy Martina was seeing, but they claim they never saw them interact except for the gloves incident. Bruno gets ready for the cemetery outing but is annoyed when he realizes that Emma is more eager to focus on the case. His plans are further disrupted when Martina's phone suddenly switches on due to an alarm. The cops find it in Leo's backpack. The police and volunteers begin combing the woods for her. Emma tells Bruno to postpone their cemetery meeting, and he storms off. Bruno visits his dad alone, and Ariana shows up. He sees her and runs away. Emma strikes up a conversation with Marcos, who insists Leo is not a monster. He reveals that they know the forest well, as they used to play there together. Soon, the cops find Martina's dead body, and the Schultz are heartbroken. Sofia also spots Gail looking scared. Emma believes the case is finally over and decides to finish her Leo episode, portraying him as the culprit. Meanwhile, Bruno looks nervous as he heads to the police station. Emma is alerted and is furious that he went alone. He claims she doesn't listen to him and never puts him first. He is angry that Ariana could make time to visit Juan's grave, but Emma couldn't. At the end of Caught episode 3, a teenage girl runs to a hotel room. She suddenly rushes out as a masked man chases her. She makes a scene until other guests intervene and go after the masked man.